It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Hi, everybody. How are you?
Happy Friday. Happy Summit Day.
Happy Summit Day. And someone asked me yesterday, a friend of mine, so what do you think is going to happen? I have no idea.
I have no idea. You know, it's interesting because the media is kind of going off of, and I don't know, Putin in his statement yesterday.
The arms control.
Yeah, that there could be an arms treaty. You know, it looks like they're really interested in maybe eventually getting to an arms treaty. I'm like, wait a minute, what? And
right,
it's like he was trying to. It was like he was trying to do a Jedi mind trick to just say it and then enter it into the mind of President Trump. But also seemingly trying to lay down some goodwill as well, saying, you know, I believe that the administration really is working to end the hostilities and all that. And I thought, okay, you know, because, look, he's going to show up and try and do what he did to Tucker Carlson. Take him shopping at a grocery store. and convince Trump that he really should have Kyiv. You know, he really should have Kyiv. I mean, that really is his.
Because if Putin has Kyiv, I mean, the Trump stores and hotels that they could build.
The hotels, my goodness.
That's how Putin's going to try to convince them. When I heard Putin yesterday, I'm sorry, I went back to Rush at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, blah, blah,
when
blah,
I heard,
blah.
like, the arms control stuff, I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can see Putin saying, look, we've got a deal now. You may not be for all of it, but I think we should have a third. Hamas should have a third of the nuclear weapons, and then you guys can have a third.
Well, it's like that. It's like that squirrely kid down the street that always paid, compliments to your mom. Gee, you look swell today, man. You know, he's out there trying to build that goodwill and can't be trusted. And that's what when it hit me, I was like, okay. And I don't think Trump trusts him. I do believe Trump is at a point now. There are very few people that he does trust. And, I guess the level of trust depends on. But the only people he really trusts are named Trump, and rightly so after everything that's been thrown at him. And I think,
but when you think about it in life, and I've told you this before privately, and I don't know if I've ever said it publicly, but you're the only person I've really ever trusted completely in business.
Yeah,
and I will say this because. And not that I don't trust other people to a certain extent,
right?
But we're in the same business deal together,
right?
And
right.
If you knew me before I started working with you,
yeah,
and somebody said, "Well, you'll tie yourself basically, to someone professionally," I would have told you, no, I can't. I can't trust anybody enough to do that.
You just saying that just now. You said it to me the other day, and thank you for that. I greatly appreciate that, and it is mutual.
Oh, I know it is. Yeah.
In fact, I'll say this. It just occurred to me, and I thought, because I've said this, my wife is my only business partner that I've ever trusted, and we've had some great business ventures together, and I don't, and she will tell you, I really don't do partnerships. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Outside of me and her.
Right.
I really don't. And the reason is because it can get really complicated. And because there have been like opportunities, hey, so-and-so was talking about this and maybe it's like, and that's the thing is that maybe I don't know. Part of it may have been from being in a band when you had to rely on 4 other people to show up and do their part and all that. But I think it's life in general. I think it's the type of people that we are. And it's not that you don't trust those individuals, but there are so many moving parts.
Well, and that's what I mean. For business, politics, and I think about it. And the reason I brought it up is not to talk about us, but just
Trump,
so people know that when you said that, we're not, and when I agreed with it, we're not insulting Trump for that.
Oh, no.
It's not an insult. The point was there are very few people. I've got you, a couple more of my best buddies that I've known since I've been 8, who I know would go to the wall for me, and I go to the wall for them.
My buddies from Del Rio.
Believe it or not, a couple of ex-girlfriends and my family, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Where where it's absolute 100% no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was the point I was trying to make about Trump, is I just want people to know that that was not an insult thrown his way.
No, it's actually, if you look in his first term, maybe he extended, and I would call it political trust, a little maybe too often, and then ended up having to fire the people, and so there are so many moving parts, especially politically. But after everything that has been thrown at him and what he's been through, I think now it stands to reason, but it also is demonstrated to me. I see clear evidence that he really holds that trust close to the vest and doesn't extend it out, and it is not going to with a Vladimir Putin, because he, the thing is that
I don't think he trusts any foreign leader. I would go into.
That's a great point.
Everything I would go into with skepticism. There isn't anything that I would walk into if I was president of the United States, or anything in business where that's not in the back of my mind. I got to see where they are. And Caroline Levitt even said it. This is a listening thing. I want to listen. You go into a meeting.
Yep.
Can I do business with this person?
Yep.
All right, let me see what you got to say.
Right.
And a lot of times
it's a business proposal. I mean, it's a lot like a business proposal with greater ramifications, of course. But I mean, that's something that he's done for a long time. But think about his trip to the Middle East. This was pre-bombing Iran. And he was setting the tone, and he owned the room. And then NATO, same thing. And if you look at that, I think to myself, because you got to be careful. Of course, the liberal activist media, they're going to do, and the Democrats are going to do what they're going to do. But if you listen to the things he says, you got to read between some lines there, right? And he'll talk like with the Middle East. It's, hey, we can do it this way, or we can do it this way. And I think NATO also was, look, this guy's in charge. He has a consensus at home in the States, and he is a decision maker that is going to follow through with something. And you really can't flinch on something like that when it comes to action. So the point being is that whatever we hear today and over the weekend, and what he might say, what President Trump might say, because you'll hear him say things maybe like, well, I could see beautiful hotels in Kyiv one day, or something like that. He kind of did the same thing with Kim Jong-un, but I think it applies even more now, today in his second term.
Well,
he puts
the Gaza resort.
Yeah, exactly. But if you listen to what he's saying is obviously, which I think everybody agrees with, the peaceful route coming to a resolution and ending the war is going to be good for everybody. We just have to find out. We just have to find that, whatever that middle ground is.
I mentioned, remember you talked about the Gaza resort, being the place everyone wants to go.
Yeah.
But I think that, again, will that happen in our lifetime? Probably not. But I think when you talk about an American president who basically sets what not all, but many people would view as maybe someday we can get there.
Mm-hmm.
And the American president's saying, why can't you get there?
Right.
Why can't you do it? And when you look at NATO, for example, it's almost, well, we've got to twist NATO's arm in order to do this. But in a way, and we don't know the behind-the-scenes negotiations, but I always wonder, did Trump say to them, why the hell are you letting us do this? Why would you want us to have undue influence? If you pay your fair share, then you get more of the power to determine where you wish to go in your hemisphere. Why the hell do you want us telling you what to do in your hemisphere? You turn it around and say, this is an opportunity for you to have the power. Don't you want the power? Do you want the United States? Not that we understand the power that we have, and we're here as your allies. But for God's sakes, don't you want to control your area of the hemisphere?
Right.
Don't you want to have the say-so? Shouldn't the power be there with you? We all believe in basically the same things. Mm-hmm. We believe in a representative government, except maybe for the EU, but we come from the same. We come from the same political and economic cultures.
Right.
We should be. It shouldn't be the United States. You shouldn't look at us. It doesn't do you any good as a nation to look at the United States as your savior. And so you sort of flip it. In the United States, you sell it. We're not going to be responsible for them anymore. Right. They got to take care of their fair share, which is, okay, they need to do it. Right. But how do you sell it to them? And I wonder if that's how they sold it to them. Don't you? Because when you saw, the German chancellor, for example, when you saw the other members of NATO, it's about time we did this. It's about time we did this. It's about time we did this. It's almost like they went, oh, yeah, well, we can have more control of our area of the world. Why are we depending on the United States for everything?
Right.
The United States is saying, guys, we don't want, if we've got all the power and we're financing way over, then we get more of a say. Why do you want us to have more of a say?
Right. Why would you want that?
Right.
And, it works domestically in many ways, including, look, we're not going to foot the bill for all of this. But also.
Right. But you can sell it both ways.
Yeah, but also we're not going to be the bad guy. These guys are going to, you got to carry your own. You got to walk for yourself, and then you've got that responsibility, but you also have, as you mentioned, that power. And it works on many levels here. I think foreign relations is there's so many gazillion moving parts here, but it's the same principle. I think the president has done a good job at conveying the same principle of, look, we're not going to be there. You're going to have to learn to swim. Well, you're going to have to pay for your own swim trunks.
To give you an example, I can see imagine the Cuban Missile Crisis happened, and Europe has to come over, and they're the main influence to negotiate something there.
Yeah, right.
Well, what the hell? We'd all be ticked off.
Right.
You can sell this in a way that it's time for you. Look, post-World War II, we understand the influence that we had there in Europe.
Right.
But it's time for us to get out. You can do it. Why do you want the United States to be over here? Why do you want us to have this power? We understand what happened, and we're willing to negotiate how we withdraw over a period of time. But the fact is, you should want to control your own democracies.
Yep.
You should be in control of it.
Right.
And we're allies together, but why do you want us? You hate us because we're over here, yet you won't pay for it. It doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Because and the other thing is, it builds, and there's a sense of weakness that I think is built into governments when the United States, they don't have to take responsibility, as much responsibility.
Exactly. They can just point their finger at the U.S.
There's a weakness. There's a sense that we lack power, and then the person who you've advocated your responsibility to, who out of the graciousness of their heart post-World War II was there to take care of so much, actually becomes your enemy.
Yes.
We don't want to be your enemy.
Nope.
We don't want that to happen.
Right.
And so, like I said, there's so many ways to sell it, and I think maybe Trump, I don't think by the reaction of the members of the European Union that he sold it that way as a threat.
Yeah, I don't get that. Yeah, that wasn't my perception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so is that how they sold that behind the scenes?
It would make sense.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Record U.S. corn production this year and its impacts to our nation's supply and demand estimate.
A large increase in supplies supports increases in virtually all of the use categories. We raised feed and residual by 250 million bushels. Our export forecast, we raised by 200 million bushels. Ethanol use raised about 100 million bushels this month. Our ending stocks forecast was raised by 457 million bushels.
USDA World Agricultural Outlook Board Chair Mark Jekanowski says the end result price-wise is a forecasted $3.90 per bushel season-ending average price, down 30 cents from the previous month. Meanwhile, a combination of factors is resulting in forecasted increases in U.S. corn exports for both the 2024-25 and 25-26 marketing years. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, our audio cut of the week. It'll be interesting because obviously you've seen a change in Trump, and we've said this before. I think one of the places where you really see him, and it's been a worry. It's been a worry with a lot of people who thought, well, he's not going to do the right thing with Iran. He's going to not do the right thing with Israel, and he's done the right thing on all of that. One of his most loyal core minority supporters, I don't mean minority in the way of race, but they all thought he was an isolationist.
Yeah.
And did all the way up to Iran. And we sat there and went, we don't get it, because we never thought he was an isolationist. And when he did the Zelensky thing, I didn't like how that went. I can't tell you whose fault it was because I don't know what happened in the background beforehand. But that wasn't good. I didn't like the message that it sent.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't like what Zelensky also did. But the fact is that should have never happened in public, however that happened. But it ended up being okay. And
it ended up working out. I mean,
it ended up working out. It ended up working out great.
It is what it is, or it was what it was, you know.
Right. And so now where he has come right out and said, I don't think Putin wants peace, he knows it.
No, I think he's very clear.
Radcliffe,
on
the CIA is the CIA has told him exactly what they believe is going on inside of there, and he knows.
They know full well the entire scope. And the question would be, you know, in the listening session, by the way, the best way to phrase it, I think, you're just wanting to hear something or a set of somethings from Vladimir Putin to make you trust that he actually wants peace. You go in thinking, oh, no, because I don't believe he does either. What is it that he would say? What is it that, you know, that he's going to say today? Because if he's saying, stuff like, come on, Kyiv should be mine. Kyiv should be mine.
Well,
it's not going to go anywhere.
Putin probably promised a lot of the other leadership in Russia this was going to pay off. If there's all this loss of life and economic hit.
Yeah, not good.
Listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Just continuing the conversation on whatever they call it, the summit. It's not really a summit, but we'll call it a summit.
Yeah.
The one thing that you really wonder is, what are the, and this is for Putin domestically in Russia. Remember, they've lost. Who knows what the actual number is? But their casualties are in the hundreds of thousands. You're talking, even greater than the United States and Vietnam.
Right.
You and I always talked about the fact that probably everybody in Russia knows somebody who has been killed or injured.
Yeah.
In Ukraine. There's been a tremendous amount of investment. There was the mindset, I guarantee, in Russia, in the beginning, we're going to win this thing and win it quickly. And now this thing has just dragged on year after year after year. And Putin, the question would be, does Putin have to get something out of this to survive domestically? Can it basically, can the negotiation be, all right, we just go back to the borders before? Or if you get a little bit of, because you and I were talking about, you came in, I think it said, Trump said land swap. He goes, what's Ukraine going to get?
Right, exactly.
It's like something, a swap means you're, swamp. A swap is you get something for something.
There's going to be a very big 18 acres in Siberia for the Ukraine.
But the point is, what does, or is this even a problem or a challenge for Putin? Does Putin have to, in order to stay in power, maybe not short term, but as long as he wants? Does he have to? Does he in order to keep public opinion, military opinion, the party opinion, in his favor? Does he have to strike a deal that shows this was worth it?
Well,
because it's not like you were attacked. This isn't a situation where, like, post 9/11 for the United States, where the United States finally said we need to get out of Afghanistan.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, we're done fighting. They're not. We don't care. We want out.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a case about that. You can't sit there and say, well, it wasn't worth Afghanistan. Why? 9/11.
Well, and there's no doubt there's internal pressure on Putin. It has been for a long time now. And something like that's going to, at some point, take its toll. So how do you satisfy those, that are leading your military? And also running a government and an economy. It's not just the fact that you're losing so many soldiers. Your economy's not doing great at all.
Yeah.
And in a time when, the global economy is going through a little bit of ebb and flow kind of situation of, depending on where the tariffs last or land, rather, where they end up. Could it be that Putin is looking at this going, you know what? If the economy is about to be on the brink, if something happens to the global economy, that could be much worse for us. We're in the hole now. If I don't get into the good graces now, if I'm not in the good graces and everything goes south on the global economy, it's going to be over.
As Connie Rice said the other day, and when you and I talked about the interview that Jeff Skunk Baxter did on the one the Jason Alexander podcast, and he thought it was going to be a music thing. 'Cause he played with the Doobie Brothers, and he played with Steely Dan. And I know when I say it, people that don't know about Jeff Skunk Baxter have no idea that he's been a consultant for decades to the Pentagon, and he plays war games. They bring him in to play war games against the U.S. military. That's how good he is. He's considered one of the top analysts of understanding the military strength of all of our adversaries.
Yeah.
And when he said, not that impressed with Russia at all. They do not at all. Yeah, they've got the nuclear weapons, but what you have seen from him, and I think one of the questions Jason Alexander asked him is because it's like, why has this war lasted so long? Why hasn't Putin won this thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was thought this thing's going to be over very soon, and this thing's a quagmire. And so you look at it and you just say, as Condi Rice said the other day, if secondary tariffs are put on any country that buys oil from them and you can stop the oil flow, you've got a lot more clout. Yep. Trump and therefore Zelensky have a lot more clout.
Yeah.
What is the look? You've got the president threw the gauntlet down. I don't know if many people took it this way. I believe you and I did. He threw the gauntlet down when he did the mineral deal.
Yeah.
Because he said, no, you're dealing with United States interests now. And United States, basically United States United States and our protection racket.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give the analogy of the mob.
Yeah.
We're giving Ukraine protection.
Hey, you don't mind us. We're just going to be working over here in this corner.
Well, because it's strictly business now.
Right. Exactly.
Our protection of Ukraine is based on business. I mean, that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
And so
boots on the ground instead of boots on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, you and I said this changes everything.
Yeah.
We don't know to what extent, but it definitely changes everything with the president already threatening the secondary tariffs on anybody that buys, oil from Russia if they don't come to a deal.
Well,
that's the big question nobody knows. How much of a impact has that had not just on Putin, but on the Communist Party, on the military, on everything?
I think a number of things. If you're watching President Trump, which of course he is, the things that relate directly to you, like the mineral deal, but also tariffs and the threat of secondary tariffs, are very real. Trump doesn't play. And if he says secondary tariffs on something like that, especially to end a war, it's going to happen. And you've seen him do it. And I think those are the things you look at it. It's not which, by the way, it's you look at the fall of the Soviet Union. It's for Putin. Well, you may have these. You may be delusional, thinking, "Oh, this land is my land, and I'm just going to come in and take it."
You lost it once,
but that's and it wasn't. It's not being given up. They're fighting for it, which isn't going well for you, and the world is about to carve you out as a pariah economically, especially if Trump follows through, which he will.
And
all secondary tariffs
and all the deals that Trump has made across. I mean, Trump has support worldwide like we've never seen before.
Yeah,
I think it was Bakari Sellers tried to take on Scott Jennings yesterday or the day before. Didn't know of all the deal. Think about this. All the deals that Trump had done, there's like 8 of them.
Yeah.
He's done 8 or 9 already that he's done with different countries.
Right.
And everything's gone under the radar.
Right.
But the fact is That's huge influence of American power in a good way, negotiating deals with countries for peace.
Especially with the Vladimir Putin who thrives on chaos. He wants a world where Trump has no influence with other nations.
Right.
That's the best thing that he can have. He wants a Biden. He wants somebody who's not in charge, certainly not in charge, doesn't have a great grasp on foreign relations, and has no respect for, well, Trump has respect. It's very clear, especially after the Middle East summit and after NATO. I think it's very clear that world leaders now clearly respect him, and for a Putin, that's kind of that death knell. That is his kryptonite, because he needs that chaos, and there's no chaos. It's very clear now.
And think about the push. I think I know Saudi Arabia and two other countries. It just popped out of my head. In the Middle East, they're talking about having more Abraham Accords with.
Right.
Saudi Arabia has already talked about the willingness to have, peace with Israel. Mm-hmm. All of that you do, if all of this is brokered by the United States is influence, right, and Russia loses influence in those areas. The other thing that I think is a wild card here, and I say a wild card because I just don't know. You don't know what impacts Putin.
Right.
You just don't know. Does the CIA probably know? Have they done a psychological workup of him? Do they know more of what's going on inside the military, inside the party, inside the country with public opinion? They probably do. They probably have very educated guesses there. But and Condoleezza Rice brought it up the other day. She just hopes Trump knows how much power he has in these negotiations.
Yeah.
But think about this. If you would have even said 6 months ago that the Iranian nuclear program would be done because Trump would go in and destroy it completely, would you have had doubts that would happen? I would have.
I would have thought it was more talk. But, we didn't think about that. We didn't really hear the boasting of, I'm going to go in and
no.
He said he was, what did we hear? What's the last thing we heard from him? I'm thinking about it. And then, boom, it happened.
Yeah. And
which is the opposite of him sometimes with, he'll boast about something or boast about how something could be. And then, what if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But he didn't boast about that. Again, getting back to you need to pay attention to his actions when he pulls the trigger versus the things that he says.
Well, it was just, and I'm not saying that I don't believe that Trump could do it. It was just world opinion was like something like this can never happen. We do live in so many bubbles of the day.
Yeah.
Where now it's like, a week was passed and you and I looked at each other, a week passed. Mm-hmm. Like a week, 10 days, and nobody was talking about it. There was no criticism of Trump.
Right.
A little bit from Democrats, and it was gone, completely gone. Yeah. Well, what type of effect does that have inside of Russia?
Right.
And inside the political machine in Russia? We don't know.
Well, because
it's not a good one for them.
Because what is the other scenario in peacetime? It is, all right, we restore trade routes. Your economy comes back. You get to retain power, or not. This is a lot like the Middle East summit. I mean, I don't think those things will all be said today, but I think it's implied, and I think it's very clear to Vladimir Putin. That's how it would go down.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So here we made it to a Friday, and then it was what a just insane week it has been. My throat is sore, and my chest hurts from laughing so much from the insanity of the now pro-crime Democrats that you and I are both like, what's it going to be about next week? because we just never think that they can top the week before, and they always do.
I'm shocked they haven't gone into this is a plot. Trump is finally going to acknowledge his Russian ties. He and Putin are teaming up against us. I'm shocked that no one has made that allegation. I mean, after all the whole Russian hoax thing, right? Yeah, we'll see. I'll keep that one.
Well, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Trump and Putin's going to take over D.C.
That's right.
It's the ultimate treason. That's what it is.
That's the land trade. Russia gets D.C.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.